Good morning. This is the Great Basin prescribed fire and weather briefing for Friday, October 24th. Looking at our fire activity, you can see lots of burn projects going on in the purple circles, concentrated up in the higher terrain of our western Idaho mountains and also scattered about northern Utah and parts of southern Nevada. Had a few natural fires, very small, acre or less, not unusual during the uh, increasingly dormant season. Looking at precipitation amounts, the past 7 days, it has been bone dry across, well, mostly dry across the southern half of the geographic area, scattering of light precipitation, mainly orographically induced over the higher terrain. It's in the northern mountains of Wyoming and Idaho that we've had substantial precipitation, at least a half inch or higher, where you see the green shadings. And some of that is coming in the form of snow cover. And you see the overall aerial extent is very small, highest terrain of the northern Wasatch and Uintas, also down into the southern Idaho mountains, down by Cedar City, but mostly above 9,000 feet, a bit across the higher Sierra, and a bit more across the higher peaks of central Idaho, and maybe the upper and middle slopes of the mountains in western Wyoming. So looking at the last 24 hours, not much new snowfall, although there were some significant amounts in the higher terrain of southern Utah, but you have to go really high above 8,500 to 9,000 feet to see it. There's not as much aerial extent of it. Storm really hit some of the higher terrain of Colorado quite hard with over a foot of snow in some areas. Looking at our fuel conditions, these are 100-hour fuels, and it's a tale of two cities. Up north, fuels had dropped down towards normal conditions on the 100-hour scale, but are forecast to rise over the next 7 days to fairly high levels. That's because precipitation is expected for several days up north. Further down south of the storm track, we actually had some recent precipitation that has brought the 100-hour fuels up high, but the dry trend over the next 7 days will bring those back down to normal conditions. So over the coming week, better burning conditions down in southern areas, a bit of the opposite with the more expected moisture further north. Satellite imagery shows that next storm system pushing into the Pacific Northwest. This will be affecting mainly northern areas, where we have those burn projects in Idaho and into Wyoming and maybe far northern Utah, but staying dry and warming up a little bit across our southern areas. Upper level map shows the ridge of high pressure building in, so we will see a warming and clearing trend across many areas. There's the leading edge of that next cold front pushing into the Pacific Northwest. Some good overall dispersion in those western areas. Still a bit more stagnation under high pressure over parts of central and eastern portions of the Great Basin. Looking at surface winds, fairly light in that bluish purple shade. The winds will start picking up over far western areas, maybe at 10 to 20 miles an hour late today. Relative humidity, mid to upper teens in parts of Nevada, getting up into the 20 to 30% range further north, and even a bit higher over the higher elevations of the Wasatch. On Friday, light winds and still bits of stagnation across parts of southern, central Nevada and western Utah, but you see the winds picking up quite strong, getting into northwest Nevada, into western Idaho. Some sustained winds at the surface of 15 to 25 miles an hour, vertical mixing height several thousand feet above ground level. And then looking at, well, I was through there, Saturday, we're looking at that front pushing in a little bit closer, and you can see the ridge of high pressure starting to ease further eastwards, a stronger front now pushing in with steady precipitation across Nevada, much of Idaho. Excellent overall dispersion where you see the areas in white. So dispersion improves. The high pressure area shifts further eastwards, but still clear skies, good mixing. The Saturday's transport winds, surface winds are going to be quite strong across Nevada and parts of Idaho. 20 to 30 miles an hour. We see the oranges and purples, and maybe 10 to 20 further south and east, where you see the greenish shades. And the relative humidity tomorrow, anywhere from the mid-teens further south, more 25 to 35% in central and eastern areas. But then the RH gets really high up in the central Idaho mountains, 60 to 77%, maybe even 86%. Drier in Wyoming, still in the 30 to 40% range, so maybe still some good burning opportunities there, and the winds will be still not very strong. You see the transport winds really picking up. And these winds on the ridgetop levels could be gusting over 45 to 50 miles an hour, and starting to get into parts of western Utah, definitely up into where we have some of the burn projects in the Payette and the Boise. With that comes great vertical mixing, so we still have several thousand feet above ground level. So the mixing and dispersion is not the problem. You might have too much of a good thing on with higher humidity. Now on Sunday, the entire region goes under a broad low-pressure trough, and where you see the areas in green here, skies will be overcast, still light to locally moderate precipitation, and snow levels will be lowering across the Wasatch, Uintas, and some of the higher terrain of northeast Nevada, as well as up in Idaho. Excellent overall dispersion. We see the areas in the white. Humidity quite high, not only over northern areas, but even central. Even the northern third of Nevada and Utah are going to see humidity somewhere near or north of 40%. Winds on the surface slackening off a little bit. From the transport side on the ridgetops, still quite strong, especially across western Wyoming. We could see those 30 to 45 mile an hour gusts at the ridges and briefly mixing down the surface, and similar wind speeds along and to the east of the Wasatch Crest, and quite strong across the Sierra front and extending down further into the valley areas. Good mixing. Big change in temperatures today through Sunday. A lot of northern areas are going to see temperature drops of 20 to 25 degrees, but a much slighter temperature change, maybe 5 degrees cooling in southern areas. You can see where that front gets kind of hung up over south central Nevada and Utah. But again, sharply colder, highs near McCall, only getting up to near 37 degrees. That snow level is going to be down to near 5,000 feet. And 3-day precipitation totals quite heavy across the central Idaho mountains, half inch to an inch and a half. So conceivably 6 to 12 inches of snow, not out of the realm up there. Maybe 4 to 8 inches in the higher terrain of the Tetons, and maybe 3 to 6 inches or 2 to 4 inches in the Uintas and the Wasatch, and of course some heavier snows right along the Sierra, but not really getting into the eastern Sierra as much. Further down the road next week, we're under a fast flow. Temperatures may be a little cooler than normal, clouds and still bands of precipitation where you see the green coming in. Then high pressure starts building in on Tuesday, forcing this moisture in the Pacific Northwest further northwards. But still a front could cross through and bring some light precipitation. But overall, with these fronts coming through, even though they're not as strong anymore, we have good overall mixing. So ventilation should be good, dispersion should be good. But again, still another batch of clouds and maybe some light precipitation. We see the green across the northern half of the geographic area, drier but still breezy further south. So no big dome of high pressure sitting over us, but frequent passages of cold fronts, maybe dry cold fronts in the southern half of the region, some wetness in the northern part. So days 4 and 5, this is Monday morning through Wednesday morning, we see some light precipitation across the northern third to northern half of the geographic area. That precipitation shifts further north and out of our area days 6 and 7, and this is the 7-day total precipitation, much of it coming in the first 3 days. 8 to 14-day outlook shows a warming trend, above normal temperatures and drier than normal conditions for at least the southern half of the area. The storm track, though, not too far away, still into the Pacific Northwest, still grazing our central Idaho mountains. This concludes our briefing. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Monday next week.